In this video, we're going to explore 5 common people-pleasing behaviors that may be affecting you more than you realize. We'll look at why it happens, how it's connected to early life experiences, and the emotional impact it can have on your sense of self. We will also consider some common ways to help you start to reclaim yourself. Does this story sound familiar to you? You were always the one who said yes to everything. If someone needed a favor, you were there. If there was a disagreement, you stepped in, agreed with everyone, and made peace, even if it meant going against your own feelings. It wasn't that you didn't have opinions. It was just that you learned early in life that avoiding conflict made life so much easier. Maybe you find yourself constantly adjusting to make others happy, saying yes when you really want to say no, or avoiding your own needs to keep everyone else feeling comfortable. This is what we call people-pleasing, and it often goes unnoticed because it can look like kindness or helpfulness. But there's more beneath the surface. Let's make sure we understand what people-pleasing really is and why it's more than just being nice. People-pleasing is often misunderstood. On the surface, it may look like kindness, helpfulness, or just being agreeable. But there is a hidden layer beneath these actions. People-pleasing is when you adjust your behavior, your words, your actions, primarily to avoid conflict, to gain approval, or to keep peace, even if it means neglecting your own needs and feelings. People-pleasing often comes from a need to feel accepted, to avoid rejection, or to feel safe. It's about managing other people's perceptions. It's about feeling secure, even if it means setting your own needs aside. Now let's take a look at 5 common behaviors that may signal you are falling into this kind of a pattern. First, agreeing with others when it's very different than what we really want to say. Ever found yourself in a group conversation just nodding along, doing it just to keep the peace, even though you had a different opinion? It might seem like something that you shouldn't be worried about, but when it keeps happening, you end up feeling like your voice doesn't matter. Then there's putting your own needs aside. Maybe you've canceled out on plans for yourself because you were asked to help someone else, or you've skipped your workout or self-care time to be there for someone. It feels like the right thing to do at that moment, but when you continue to do this and form a pattern of doing this, you may start to feel like you are avoiding what you need for yourself. Then there is saying yes to everything, overcommitting yourself, even when you're already very stretched thin. If you've ever found yourself volunteering for extra tasks or agreeing to social plans even though you're drowning in your own responsibilities, you may be overcommitting yourself. It's like there's a fear of letting people down. Another one is changing your behavior to fit in, changing how you act depending on who you're with. Maybe you pretend to like things, or try to match your personality to fit the group. It might help in the moment to feel like you're fitting in, but deep down, it leaves you feeling like you're not really being yourself. And lastly, going out of your way to be helpful to others, saying to yourself, maybe if I do this, they will appreciate me more. Seeking their validation through the acts of service that you provide. Overall, these behaviors can be exhausting, and they don't appear out of nowhere. So why do so many of us fall into these patterns? Let's explore where people-pleasing really comes from. The truth is, it often starts very early in our life. For many people, people-pleasing is a learned behavior that comes from trying to feel safe, accepted, and loved. Think about a child growing up in a home where love and validation only come when they meet certain expectations, like getting good grades, being well-behaved, or making others feel happy. They quickly learn that the best way to get love is to conform, to be agreeable, to put others' needs first. Over time, this becomes second nature. For some, these behaviors are a way to avoid conflict and criticism. Maybe they had parents who were emotionally unavailable or unpredictable, and being agreeable felt like the safest option. By saying yes or going out of their way to help, they tried to keep peace and avoid getting hurt. These early experiences can set up a lifelong pattern. As adults, when you people please, you might not even realize you're operating from that same place that you were as a child, trying to avoid conflict, rejection, or disappointment by being the someone who always accommodates others. These early experiences can set up a lifelong pattern. As adults, you may not even realize that you're operating from that same place as you were in childhood, trying to avoid conflict, rejection, or disappointment by being the one who always accommodates others. Understanding where these habits come from is key, but there is also a reason why they persist. Let's talk about how people-pleasing can feel protective, even when it's actually holding you back. When you're feeling anxious, uncertain, or worried about being judged, focusing on making other people happy can seem like the easiest way to keep things calm and secure. It can feel like a quick fix to avoid conflict and make sure that you're accepted. You might recognize that small rush of relief when someone says thank you or smiles at you and appreciates what you just did for them. That's your brain releasing dopamine, a feel-good chemical that rewards you for your actions. It's a quick fix that makes you feel like you're doing the right thing, even if deep down it's making you feel very drained. And while people-pleasing can feel very protective, it doesn't address the bigger issues. Those bursts of validation don't really fill the gaps. Over time, instead of feeling connected, you end up feeling exhausted and disconnected from your own needs. So why is it so hard to break these habits? Let's look at the emotional impact and how it affects your sense of self. One of the biggest impacts is the gradual loss of self-identity. When you're always putting others' needs, preferences, and expectations above your own, it's easy to lose sight of who you truly are and what you really want. It's a bit like always wearing a mask. You shift your behavior to match what others expect, but underneath, you start to feel disconnected, even from yourself. Another impact is burnout. When you're constantly saying yes, taking on more than you can handle, and neglecting your own needs, it's only a matter of time before exhaustion sets in. You might find yourself feeling resentful and frustrated, but because you're used to avoiding conflict, those feelings often stay bottled up. And lastly, it can create unhealthy relationship dynamics. By always prioritizing others, you might find yourself in situations where your kindness is taken for granted, or you end up in relationships that drain instead of uplifting you. Recognizing these emotional impacts is a very important step. But what can you do about it? Let's talk about practical ways to start to reclaim yourself and breaking free of the cycle of people-pleasing. The first step is recognizing that it's okay to have your own needs and preferences, even if they don't always match with what others want. It might feel uncomfortable at first, but it's essential to begin listening to what you genuinely want. This doesn't mean you have to be harsh or unkind. It's about being honest. If you're used to saying yes to everything, try taking a moment to pause before you respond. Give yourself permission to think it over and decide what's best for you, rather than automatically agreeing. Another step is setting small boundaries. Maybe it's letting everyone know that you can't take on extra tasks, or carving out a little time each day for projects that are just for you. Setting boundaries doesn't make you selfish. It makes you clear about your limits and helps others understand how to respect them. You could also start paying attention to situations where you find yourself changing to fit in. If you find yourself holding back an opinion or pretending to enjoy something just to keep peace, take a step back and ask yourself why. Lastly, let's talk about self-care. When you're used to putting others first, it's easy to forget about your own well-being. But self-care isn't just about treating yourself to something nice. It's about consistently taking care of your mental, emotional, and physical health. This could be as simple as setting aside a few minutes each day to do something that recharges you, whether that's reading, going for a walk, or doing something that makes you happy. Healing from people-pleasing is a gradual process. It's about learning to reconnect with who you are and giving yourself permission to be who you are. It doesn't make you selfish. It makes you authentic, and that's where real connections begin. So remember, it's okay to put yourself first. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up, share it, and subscribe for more content on childhood trauma and self-discovery. Your journey matters. See you in the next video.